Welcome to The Fourth Bottom Line, the podcast where we meet people from business, charities and politics who are a force for good. In each episode, I talk to my guests about their inner side and how their internal changes have led to their outer success stories. We talk about the failures, spirituality, and sometimes the painful experiences that have made them the unique individuals they are today. The main aim of this is for us to learn from them and be inspired by them for our own lives. So, if you desire change in yourself and the world around you, do keep listening. And remember, please, to hit the subscribe on your podcast platform of choice to make sure you never miss an episode. Hello, my name is Paul Hargreaves. I'm the founder and Chief Empowerment Officer of Cotswold Fair and Flourish, two businesses that have put people and planet before profit. In 2015, we became one of the first B Corps in the UK, and I've written two books, Forces for Good and The Fourth Bottom Line. I'm absolutely passionate about changing the world for better, and realised many years ago that to do this, we must also change ourselves. The outer impact of people, planet and profit has to be mirrored by an inner change. And that's what I call my fourth bottom line.
I sat looking at these names for ages. Carl Jung, Da Vinci, Einstein. Some of them are 100 years apart. What have they got in common? Why are they there? So we spoke to the owner. He said, they belong to the same society. I went, tell me about the society. This is so exciting. They were studying what could not be explained. And they were open-minded and wanting to come together to discuss this. And of course I joined the society straight away.
What's it called?
I can't remember.
My guest today is Dr. Lynda Shaw. Lynda is an applied neuroscientist, leadership psychologist and change strategist. Lynda is also a trusted advisor to CEOs, senior teams and fast-rising leaders across industries. With a PhD in behavioural neuroscience and unconscious processing with decades of experience in business psychology, Lynda's also a serial entrepreneur. Brain and behaviour is her fourth business. Lynda specialises in turning brain science into leadership superpowers and helps leaders understand how the conscious and unconscious brain works, so they can lead smarter, communicate better, and unlock potential in themselves and others. Her approach is refreshingly real. She blends deep academic insight with warmth, wit, and a practical no-fluff delivery that resonates at every level of leadership. Lynda listens and leads with both science and heart. I love that phrase, by the way. That's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Lynda also, to my surprise, actually worked as a British Airways cabin crew and has also started a health club and loves looking for dinosaurs in Dorset. And two of her friends who I spoke to as part of preparing for this told me she's incredibly mischievous.
Oh, they let me down. They've grasped on me.
Okay, we'll find out how exactly a bit later on. So, Lynda, welcome to the Fourth Bottom Line.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Really looking forward to this conversation. Who knows where we might end up? But what I'd like to do is start where I start with most of my guests and talk about some of your early years experience, because it is, as you will tell me, it's those years are formative for all of us. So where did you grow up? How did you grow up? Tell us a bit about your family and your mum and dad.
I've still got a friend from school, actually, and we often go on holiday once a year together for a few days in Europe somewhere, she and her husband and mine, which is lovely. But just recently she said to me, "You were always odd at school." Thanks, Joe. She said, you're always weird. So I actually don't know how I came across and what I was like as a child, because I thought I was pretty normal.
Well, we all think we're normal, don't we? That's the thing.
What can I tell you about my childhood? I wanted to be a nun.
Wow.
Not for religious reasons, because I wanted sisters. because I'm an only child and I
okay.
wanted sisters. So in my head, that was one way of getting them. My parents were a bit nervous because none of us are religious at all.
Right.
Spiritual, yes, not religious. But so mum and dad were a tad nervous and how I'd look in a wimple. But it turned out that I was, when they realised it wanted a sister or 2 or 10, then mum just patted me on the head and let me get on with it, because she certainly wasn't going to have any more children to satisfy me. So yeah, okay. And the other thing I could point out probably in my childhood is that I was always fascinated in why people do what they do.
Okay, that's interesting. What age do you remember having that fascination?
I can remember as young as about 7 or 8.
That's pretty unusual,
I know,
isn't it?
it was. Because my dad's company, they used to put on these Christmas do's for people who had retired from the company. And I'd go along as the children were invited, and I would sit talking to these old people, and they thought I was wonderful because I wanted to listen to them, and I wasn't trying to be wonderful. I was just fascinated. What was it like when you were little? Tell me, and I was just wanted to know. So yeah, I've always been like that. And,
Curious.
Oh my. And I had ideas. My children now, grown-up children, I'll often say I've had an idea. They go, oh no, because I have a billion ideas a day.
And school, was school a happy time for you?
No, I hated it.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, I hated it. I don't know. I just didn't quite get it, really. I didn't feel I fitted in. I didn't understand why the girls and boys were interested in what they were interested in. I thought, well, that's really boring. That's really tedious. And not in a nasty way. I did have friends, but I kept Jo, the friend I talked about just now, she and I were best friends. And the others were really on the periphery, and I've not been in contact with any of them since. But yeah, it wasn't, no, I didn't enjoy school.
And you mentioned that your mum and dad were spiritual but not religious. Talk to me a bit about that. How was their their spirituality defined?
Mum was always interested in life after death, and she was also very naughty. And they're very mischievous. That's where I get it from.
Right.
Yeah, and Dad, he used to say to me, he was brought up to be very religious. He used to go to church 3 times on a Sunday, put his Sunday best on, and he was a boy soprano in this choir. He sang solo at St Paul's Cathedral. I mean, it was incredible. I wish I could have heard him. Apparently there's one record, but I never heard it. And but when he was in the Second World War, towards the end of it, he was called up, and he just lost all interest in religion and believed that we were just cannon fodder. Being
forced to go 3 times on a Sunday is enough to put everyone
off, God, yeah, absolutely. But then he used to say the only true religion was Buddhism, because you give up all your wealth, you renounce everything. And so he always used to say things like, everybody needs a quiet time every day. These days we call that meditation, but that wasn't his language.
No.
They were both almost ahead of their time, really, especially my father.
Yeah. Because, my mum and dad certainly they'd probably think I'd lost the plot if I wanted to have some quiet time.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was right, of course.
Yeah, he is. And if only more people in the world had some more quiet times on their own, we'd have a very different world, wouldn't we?
Without gizmos.
Yeah, exactly. So from school, what happened next? Did you go to sixth form, university?
No, I didn't.
No, okay.
No, I didn't. I left after my O-levels, as they were in those days, and all I wanted to do was travel.
Right, hence the cabin crew.
That's right.
So how old were you when you started doing that?
19.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 19 because I wanted to travel, and I'd never heard of a gap year. I didn't know what that meant. I don't even know if it was a thing in those days. I started flying when I was 19, and I flew for 4.5 years.
Enjoyable times?
Loved it. Loved it.
Was it long haul or
long
short?
haul?
Right.
Oh, if you're going to do it, you got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so long haul, and it was strange. I look back now and I think about all the things I've done in work-wise, and I miss the team, being a team member in that cabin crew. When once you're on that flight down the routes, you're a team.
Yeah.
And then you get back to Heathrow and you can't remember each other's name. But at that moment, at that time working together, it was lovely. And what I really appreciated about it, now looking back, is that because once you got home, that was it. You don't have to think about work. But being an entrepreneur, you don't stop thinking about work, which I've done ever since.
Yes. So let's get into that, because you are quite unusual, I think, aren't you? Being a neuroscientist, PhD, and also being an entrepreneur. I don't know many other people that have the academic side and the business side. That, I mean, you might do, but even if you think it is normal, I don't think it is. So it's a powerful combination. But what came first?
Entrepreneurism. I've been in business since I was 23.
So what was the first business?
Started out with a catering company.
Oh, well, okay.
I was taking executive lunches into the City of London. And I was very chuffed. And looking back, isn't retrospect a fine thing? Looking back, I think about, because I hate marketing, I can't bear it, but it's got to be done. But on those days, what I did was I went to the NEC in Birmingham, and there was an IT conference, exhibition going on. And I waited till the third day, the last day. And in those days, I was a little blonde thing, with high heels, and talking about food.
Right.
And most of the people in this exhibition were men, exhausted, for horrible lighting for 3 days.
Tell me about it. I've spent too many months of my life in the NEC.
It's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's this little thing coming along talking about food. I got 60 leads that day.
Wow.
And I created a business out of that, just that one day's marketing. And I thought, I wish I could do that now.
That's really interesting, because my business started, it started anyway, but our kind of growth started by one show where we got a ridiculous number. We've never had such a good show in the last 25 years as that first one, because you knew everyone's interested in you, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's also times, in those days, nobody had heard of catering, going into the City of London, and executive lunches and all of that. And it was, and again, it was bored, exhausted men talking about food, nice food, and it worked.
I'm still not quite getting how you went from being cabin crew to knowing anything about hospitality, though. So where did you learn to cook?
No.
How did this happen?
I do cook properly every day, thank you very much. However, I am not... No, so, you're absolutely right to question
this. So you weren't
this.
doing the cooking?
Right. No. Well, I had a partner.
Right.
Both of us left the airline at the same time.
Okay.
She had a masonette in West London, and we started in her kitchen doing everything. Right. But I leant towards the sales and marketing.
Okay.
She was the creative one.
Right, this makes sense.
I was the labourer in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so it was incredibly hard work. I was 7.5 stone tiny thing, because I was running everywhere. Running up and down flights of stairs in office blocks and all sorts of things. So, I took that. In that first year of trading, we went from her masonette to premises, to signed written vans, to a chef, to waitresses and waiters. And, it was good.
And how long were you doing that for?
Gosh, 2 or 3 years of doing that, because I'm a bit of an exercise junkie. So I decided that I was going to train to teach exercise in those days. And then we closed that business down, and I started the health club.
Okay. So the health club came next.
Yep.
Again, how did you do that without knowing what you were doing? I'm not implying anything here, but
you are. You really are.
I'm a simple soul. I've just really done 2 businesses, but they're both in food and drink. It's totally different from doing executive lunches in the city. Where was it, first of all, and how did how do you start a health club?
Okay, it's pure optimism.
Well, I think it's a good characteristic for entrepreneurs, isn't it? Optimism.
Yeah.
I've never met a pessimistic entrepreneur.
No, you just do not see the barriers.
No.
You don't see the barriers. Yeah. And my lack of knowledge wasn't a barrier. So basically, we were... My husband worked in the City of London, and or my then boyfriend worked in the City of London. We weren't quite married at that point, and we found this rear of an old cinema. And it was like so old fashioned, this cinema. You went in the door at the back entrance, which was the entrance was the size of a house for all the old cinema equipment.
Yeah, okay.
And it had no floors. It was a horrendously high building, and in the side, either side of the building were this labyrinth of rooms where the organ pipes were.
What? Organ in a cinema?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In the old days, they used to have organs in a cinema. So, yeah, these pipes were going up the side. And so we didn't have the freehold, unfortunately. We had to have, it was leasehold. And our landlord insisted that we use the same architect of the people who were going to rent the front of the cinema, which they were turning into a nightclub. Sadly for us, the architect was more interested in the little dolly birds in the nightclub than they were in the business behind. And we had to put in 2 floors in this cavernous empty space for gym equipment, for everything, all of the stuff. And so we had given him all of our cash, all of our money, for basically 4 holes in the basement. And that's all we got for the money, because we were naive. Okay. I was running the place anyway, so we had to sack him and then take another builder on. And he had this guy, bless his heart, I can see him now. He had at one point 19 builders on site, and I was supervising. What the hell do I know about building? With my hard hat, I was up and down these ladders, and I can remember so clearly they were working through the night, desperate to get us open, bless their hearts. One of the builders had trodden on a rusty nail. Oh. And it had gone through his boot and into his foot. And I saw him. He took his boot off and he was banging his foot with the boot. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm trying to get rid of the bad blood." And so, and I'm trying to supervise these people. I'm thinking, I really don't know what I'm doing.
A tetanus injection might have been better.
Anyway, we opened.
Right.
We opened on time.
That's unusual.
And we had 2,000 members, 20 staff.
Wow.
And it was a success from day one. The trouble was that interest rates, because we're now into bank money, base rate was 15%.
Oh, this
you remember this?
Yeah,
80s.
I do remember this.
Yeah.
80s.
So we
just got my first mortgage, I think.
We had, and business loans were 18%. So although it was an extremely successful club, the economics worked against us. So we were fine. We managed through it, but it was not funny.
Right. So that's business number 2. Business number 3.
Well, there was actually a third. That was probably, you could say, Flicks was number 3, because they did also have another catering business, which were vans going around factory estates called Lunch on Legs.
Yes, okay.
Lunch on Legs was going on, so that was a much smaller business. Right. So basically we ran Time to Eat and Lunch on Legs. Time to Eat being THYME, the city lunches. We ran them at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And we decided to dump one and run with the most successful. Right. So that was really more, that first one was really more a research.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 4th business we'll come on to a bit later, because that involves the neuroscience. So when did the academia kick in? How old were you?
My children were school, so I was grown up, and I hadn't been to university at all. And I decided I wanted to study anthropology again, to find out why people did what they did. And that's my love. I love social anthropology. But the university had to be close to where I live. Yeah. And therefore, I didn't have a lot of choice on the programs they were running. So to study social anthropology at the university I chose and was able to go to, I had to do it as a joint honours degree. And I could choose sociology, communications or psychology, and by default I used psychology. I didn't want to study it at all. Halfway through the programme, halfway through the course, I realised how hard social anthropology is. It's like life. I mean, how big a topic do you need? It's everything. And I'm one of these people who go, yes, but what if? And my 2,000 word essay has turned into 20,000 words, and I'm stripping the words back, and oh goodness. And I found psychology easier.
Right.
So I I got a first in the joint honours degree in both topics, and then I thought, I like this game. I want to keep going.
And this is when you had young kids as well.
Yeah, full time.
That sounds a tough gig.
It was. The masters was tough.
Yeah,
that was tough.
And you were doing it. How long did you take to do it? Was it spread out because you would?
No, I did straight 9 years full time.
Wow.
So it was 4 years thin sandwich course for my first degree. I did my masters in a year, and then I was just under the 4 years for my PhD.
And talk to me about the PhD. We heard the title in the intro, but let's dig a bit deeper on that. What were you specifically looking at in the PhD?
Okay, well, my supervisor for my master's in psychology, I looked him up on the university website, and oh my goodness, he was a genius. Okay, he was he was a straight doctorate, didn't get a master's out of Oxbridge, and he was a neurophysicist of vision, and very, very clever man. And when I looked at this long list of his talents, at the very bottom was the word consciousness. And I've been reading about consciousness since I was 14. I love the topic of consciousness. And I just said, would you please supervise a PhD in consciousness? And he jumped at the chance. So that was how I did my doctorate. And it became, because I was studying it as a neuroscientist, it had to be very objective. And so I was looking at unconscious processing, which is very different from consciousness as people think of it as the soul or the essence, whatever you want to call it. But that's where my heart lies. So I looked at unconscious processing of emotion using fMRI scanning equipment and behavioural studies.
And what was the conclusion of the research?
The conclusion was that the 9 areas of the brain that I was looking at, the 9 regions of interest, we definitely do process emotion below conscious awareness all of the time. And the connotations of that were very big, and they went on for me to do lots of other things as well. But of course, what I did from then is I came out of academia. I taught for a while, I lectured for a while. It wasn't for me. I wanted to get back into business. And I thought, oh, great, I can come and I can sort the world out. I can fix everything. I've got this academic knowledge. I've got my business experience. Yeah, sure, they only had 20 staff, so it's hardly a massive business, but I was proud of it. And I understand cash flow, and I understand, the stuff that can make you cry. So
Not having enough money to pay the wages is one of them, yeah.
Then I certainly know what it's like to handle clients as well as staff. So all of that stuff, and I thought I was going to fix everything, but I came across a brick wall because I went into businesses trying to sell myself and brain and behaviour, and it was like, we don't want to know about that pink fluffy stuff. We want to make money.
Roughly, when was this? What decade are we talking now?
I am now in 2008.
Yes.
2009, around there.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I mean, even 10 years ago, there's probably a lot of people wouldn't be open to that. I think there's a lot more that are open to it now. I mean, presumably you're finding that.
It was actually quite fortuitous because Standard Life got hold of me, the pension providers, and they wanted to do research into whether emotional content made any difference to people taking out policies. So we did a sort of an EEG experiment, and I analysed the data, and it showed that how normally in the finance industry you'll get loads of pie charts.
I've seen them. Yes.
Oh God, they're boring. However, they're very relevant, of course. My husband loves them, and that's really sensible. I'm appreciative of that. But for me, I'm looking at it thinking, oh my God, it's like watching paint dry, looking at these pie charts, although I'm a statistician. But anyway, the experiment, we had to show people a letter via email, a letter on the normal type of letter they would send out, or an email they would send out to people with their pie charts and everything. Then a letter with negative emotional words and a letter with positive emotional words. Negative emotional words like sickness and saving money for all these frightening things, and the positive ones was saving for your grandchildren. Yes. They're getting their first car, holidays and stuff like that. Without doubt, the positive emotional words had a far greater impact to the point where people signed on the dotted line and spent money. Now, advertising agencies have known this forever.
Yes.
But the finance industry didn't. And at the same time, the Bank of New Zealand brought out research on the emotional response people had when they walked into a branch of the banks. And it turned out that emotion was a very big factor in them doing better business. So that was good. And so things changed. Things did change. And I then started talking about emotion in business and using it for decision making, leveraging it properly for judgments and so on.
So, well, let's talk about that because, I mean, going back to those early days of brain and behaviour when you're going to pitching yourself to, what were the hooks you were trying to tap into with these business leaders who probably thought, consciousness and subconscious decisions were probably, no, give me a spreadsheet and I'll crack on. How did you, because there's quite a big credibility gap for some people, isn't there?
It's a very big credibility thing. The Standard Life thing was helpful because I was on radio a lot. I was on radio huge amounts for a whole week. They put me in an office with all these journalists coming in, and it was big news at that point, and that was helpful. That gave me credibility. It went on from there, and people said, well, the Standard Life are interested. There must be something in this. But even then, it's hard nut to crack because, you often servicing a bleed, you're to the pain point of people, and they don't know that there is an emotional response problem going on. They don't know that emotion in your marketing material makes an effort, is going to make a difference. They don't realise that when they respond to Fred Smith the way they do, there's going to be a conflict because of that codependency they have of how they're talking to one another. So it was all about communication. I was called in once the communication had already broken down, which is rather a shame.
Yes.
It worked, but it's rather a shame it got that far.
Better to be in before that.
Yeah, because all of a sudden they've got a recruitment issue. All of a sudden they've got all of that going on, and they could have actually avoided it.
And that, some of that is the output stuff, is the brain side of it. Do you get to work with leaders in terms of their own inner transformation as well?
Yeah, very much.
Talk to us. So, I mean, this podcast is really about how we are transformed on the inside and how successful people have generally undergone in some circumstances, huge transformations in order to be able to do what they do, and we don't see that side of it. So the whole point of this is to unearth that. But so normally at this point I'll be talking about you, but because your work is so much is also the subject of this podcast in many ways, I'm interested to know about your work. I'll get on to you in a minute, don't worry. But initially, let's talk about how do you help people transform? This is going to be really interesting to people listening to this. So can't I come to you as a CEO? I've got a company that's okay, could be a lot better. You realise that, I could realise that I need some help in moving my people and myself forward. Where do you start?
Well, first of all, the reason they come to me is often not for a very specific thing. Often it's really rather vague, like something doesn't feel right.
Okay.
Something's a bit off. I'm not, a couple of people are working for me. They're not, they're not doing what they used to do. They're not sticking around longer. They're not helping people who need a hand. There's something going wrong and I can't put my finger on it. That's often when I'm called in. So I'm called in to help them with their relationships and their communications with the people who work for them. But in so doing, we uncover some things that actually they didn't realise was going on for themselves.
Right.
And it often honestly, Paul, everything boils down to communication, right? Everything. Wars created because of communication. Wars, peacetime happens because of better communication. Everything's about communication. So I tend to talk about communication in terms of what is not seen, what is not heard, what is not said. And I advocate a lot more transparency in helping people see the whole picture when you are communicating with them, especially if you're asking them to do something. So that's how we start the process. I have got something called a 901, Lunch and Learns, and they're for a quick fix, a quick win. But that's great, and it works. But if you want to go deeper, then we do take a bit more time than that.
And are there some people that, when you do start to go deeper, start to resist that? Oh, no, that's not for me. I want to stay. Well, they want the company to transform, but actually to do that, they need to probably change as well. Do you get resistance at a certain point?
I never suggest they change at all. I am not a coach. I'm a mentor. I'm not a coach because I can't keep my mouth shut. You're supposed to let everyone do the talking, and I'm not very good at that. I've got lots of ideas, and I share them. I do listen. I am a good listener, I have to say. But so basically, I mentor people to be a better communicator, and that just uncovers more about themselves.
And self-awareness must be a huge part of that.
It's the most important thing in leadership.
Yeah. Well, it's why it's the first chapter. It's the only chapter that's in a place in that book, because all the rest could be anywhere. But the first chapter is self-awareness, because without that, you might as well give up and go home.
Totally, 100% right. Totally right.
How can you mentor self-awareness? How do you do that?
Just talking to people. Just talking to people, watching them, see what they are saying and not saying, how they're coming across. I do quite a good job if I'm in the boardroom with them. And I don't embarrass anyone ever. I respect everybody being intelligent human beings, but you can see the dynamic going on and the unsaid and the unheard, and that's the golden nugget. That's the stuff that really shifts things. And people who are not self-aware don't realise it's happening.
No. I mean, the biggest problem with self-awareness is a lot of people who aren't self-aware think they are. I mean, it's like the Tasha Ulrich's book? There's research on this that 90% of people who think they're self-aware actually aren't.
Absolutely. It's true. It is really true. No, people don't realise how unself-aware they are. Is that such a word? No, how not aware they are of the self-aware. But you can work on it, and you can certainly change it.
Do you find, might be a controversial question, but if you've got a room full of people, do you find there's less self-awareness with the men or the women, or no difference?
Oh, gender. You told the gender word. The differences in the brain with the genders, there are slight anatomical differences, but we don't necessarily know what those anatomical differences will relate to in terms of behaviour, not necessarily. Right. So, and we have very many different brains that we have to consider. So talking about gender is actually a minefield and not necessarily helpful.
Okay.
In fact, it's unhelpful. So if we are talking about the different types of brain, sorry. But if we're talking about the different types of brain, then that's probably a better way of putting it.
Okay, let's do that then.
Yeah, so let's do that then. Okay, so but that's what's so delicious, because every brain is unique. Let me give you an example of perception, because perception is our only personal reality. Okay, now this has got a bit of poetic license, but just to give you a clue of what's going on. Say you've got two women who are pregnant. Both women, their babies are due on exactly the same day. Both are in their second trimester, and at this particular point in the pregnancies, their babies have developed taste buds on their tongue, and now the babies can taste 5 very strong flavours through the amniotic fluid. Mm-hmm. Day one, on this particular time when this babies can first taste something, the first woman is eating chocolate, so her first baby's flavour is sweet. The other woman is now eating a cooking apple, so her baby's first flavour is sour. The next day, these women swap, and the babies have now got a second flavour that is different from the first. On the third day, these women are sharing a bowl of olives, so the third flavour is now salty. The baby's perception of salty will be based on the first 2 perceptions they've had so far, which will be different simply because those flavours were introduced the opposite way round, right?
Yeah.
By the time the babies are born, the woman would have gone through emotional traumas, would have gone through all sorts of emotional things going on. She may have been rubbing her tummy. There may have been loud noises. There's all sorts of other input coming in to these babies, and their perceptions are built on this. By the time we're adults, every new experience we have, we evaluate based on our experiences so far, and that calculation is almost impossible to calculate. So therefore, your listeners now are listening to Lynda Shaw. Each person will have a different view of me.
Yeah.
And the point is, they're all right. They're all correct. Because it's based on their perceptions and their experiences so far, which means that everybody is right. Everybody. So that's why we need better communication. That's why we need curiosity. That's why we need to ask sensible questions. So if you're looking at a room full of different brains, you can guarantee that's what they are. Yeah. All very different.
I love that. Everyone is right. And, we're the world is heading in a different direction at the moment, isn't it?
Oh my.
Everyone but what my little group think is wrong. That seems to be happening more and more.
And we've got so black and white. People aren't. There are so many grey areas. So much. It's not them or us. It's not left or right. It's not anything like that. That's not how human beings operate. Yeah. But the trouble is, social media is feeding into this because it's all outward. And if somebody doesn't like what we say and they type an answer, we don't like it, we just press unfriend. That's not helpful.
So, do you, when you're in a boardroom situation, do you talk about consciousness and spirituality and stuff like
Carefully.
that? Yeah.
Carefully.
Well, first of all, let's talk. I mean, consciousness is a word that everyone knows that word. I'm not sure if you ask people to define consciousness, I don't know whether many people could. And it's a really difficult question to ask. But how would you define consciousness?
It's the last biological frontier in the known universe.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, write that one down, folks. That's a definition.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is the biggest conundrum you will ever come across. I have been studying it for years, and there is no consensus. There is nobody. I went to the Science of Consciousness conference last year in Barcelona. It was I was there for 8 days, all told, and I had 500 people in the audience, and they were quantum physicists, quantum biologists, mathematicians, psychologists, parapsychologists. Everyone was there, and they were all top of their game, all top of the tree. Oh my God, the debates and the Q&A! I was like a pig. I was so heaven. I was in heaven. I really was. I nearly said something I shouldn't have done then, but I was I was so happy. I was so happy listening to this, and I'll give you an example. Of course, they were all talking about consciousness. Of course, they were all trying to make sense of it. And there's one woman stood up. She was an emeritus professor. She's been studying her topic for many years, and she was a parapsychologist. And she talked about terminal lucidity, and this blew my mind. Basically, she's got loads of case studies where people, when they are dying, when they're in a coma and they're dying, their loved ones have come to say their final goodbyes. And all of a sudden, they will wake up and have a lucid conversation. Now, these brains have been scanned and they are so totally destroyed. It could be through strokes, it could be through hemorrhages, it could be through Alzheimer's disease. The matter is missing. Okay, a lot of matter is missing. So, but they sit up and they are remembering. They're remembering conversations. How do you do that? So the suggestion, the hypothesis is that the memory is outside of the brain. So where is it then?
Well, that was my next question.
Right. Where is it? We don't know. But the point, of course, where the quantum physicists come in. But oh my goodness me, this professor was standing up there explaining this, and her Q&A, whoa, it was talk about pushback from all of these other disciplines. It was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. But the consciousness, I'm going to give you another example that really made me very happy. Was years ago I took my husband to a lighthouse for a significant birthday, and it was on the borders of Wales and England. And
it's not,
I know.
Not normal, folks.
Sorry, I'm off. I'm off. Okay, bring me back if you have to. Okay. So we went to this lighthouse, and it was a strange place. We went to this pub for dinner and a ride on the sea, and it was very strange. They had seances in this pub. There were signed parchments and letters for people who'd seen all sorts of things. I thought, okay. Anyway, got back to the lighthouse, and we went up to where the light was. And around the light of this lighthouse was a bagua, this octagonal shape that were... Each side of the octagonal shape were 3 slats of wood, and on each slat of wood was a brass plate screwed to it with a name on it. So that's like 3 is 24 all around this. Some were missing, and it looked like a bench. That's what it looked like, a 3-slatted bench all around this light. I sat looking at these names for ages. Carl Jung, Da Vinci, Einstein... all of these names, and I thought some of them are 100 years apart. What have they got in common? Why are they there? So we spoke to the owner. He said, they belong to the same society. I went, tell me about the society. This is so exciting. They were studying what could not be explained. They were studying consciousness. They were studying the soul. They were studying the essence. They were studying... Da Vinci created drawings in a machine to communicate with extraterrestrial beings. This lighthouse owner had a copy of the drawings. I was so excited because these greatest brains, these scientists, incredible scientists, were looking at something which was... Some would say, well, woo-woo. It's not woo-woo. The absence of evidence doesn't mean the evidence of absence. And they were open-minded and wanting to come together to discuss this. And, of course, I joined the society straight away.
What's it called?
I can't remember.
I want to join.
But I know, exactly. Well, I did join, but somehow I think it's got a bit dusty over the hundreds of years, and it wasn't quite what I thought it would be. But please, if you're out there and you're a member of this society, get in touch with me, because I'd love to know if I'm wrong. But yeah.
So do you think, there's aspects of spirituality, to use that word, the remote viewing, for example, telepathy. You've talked about terminal lucidity. Do you think that we'll be able to... It seems that the more we go on and learning about... I've listened to quite a lot of podcasts on consciousness, and it does seem that the more we go on, more of the stuff the kind of woo-woo stuff, if you want to put it that way, the spiritual stuff, there does seem to be more scientific explanations of how this stuff could happen. Do you think that we will eventually know how all this stuff works, and is it all science-based, or what's your thoughts?
Science simply discovers what's yet to be discovered. Okay, so it's not like the arts where we're creating something. Scientists don't create this stuff, they discover it. So if it's out there to be discovered, we will discover it. So, especially with AI. I actually believe that AI will help us create better scanning equipment for the brain, and I think we're going to unlearn an awful lot of what we think we know.
So let's talk about telepathy, just to use that as an example. I think I might have mentioned to you before, have you listened to the Telepathy Tapes podcast, where they've got non-speaking initially, that it's gone on to lots of other things, mainly, consciousness orientated, but initially the first series is about non-speaking autistic people, usually you children or teenagers, and they've got they've done good science experiments involving psychologists and neuroscientists to prove that they're communicating via telepathy with people in different places, different geographies, sometimes local, sometimes non-local, and obviously we don't know how that works. Do you think we will find out how that works one day? Or
yeah, we will. Of course we will. We're humans. We will keep going until we find out. That's what humans have done for millennia, forever and ever. But if you, there was an example. I'll give you an example of. It's actually on national television here in the UK some years ago now. This particular senior fire officer was attending with his, and it was all men in those days, with his men. And they were in a chemical building, a commercial building, and there was a chemical fire. This senior fire officer was outside on the walkie-talkies, whatever they were using, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, he went, "Get out! Everybody out now!" And they went, no, it's all right, it's fine, it's absolutely fine, we've got it under control. They went, no, get out now. And as the last person ran out of that building, the building exploded. So he saved the lives of all the people in his team. Of course, now they're going, why? How did he do that? Was this telepathy? Was this some kind of intuition so that we don't understand what is going on? And he was investigated a lot by psychologists.
Right.
What they discovered was that when he was a junior fire officer, he was at a similar fire and the smoke behaved a certain way. And in this later incident, when he was the boss, he noticed that the smoke was behaving in the same way, but he had no memory of that.
Right.
They put it down to unconscious memory. Kahneman and Klein are two players who will. I believe their career they've been discussing this. Often scientists have a science buddy who thinks the opposite way to them, and they spend their whole careers trying to prove the other one wrong,
yes.
Which is wonderful for the rest of us. And they've got very strong views about this, which slightly differ, but they do agree about this part, is that that was unconscious memory. Now, in these examples that you've just given, I don't believe that can be unconscious memory. That doesn't compute. So there are lots of explanations for lots of things, but we still don't really know.
Intuition in business, then, so the fire story. Is there a place for intuition in business?
Oh yeah, absolutely, but only if you're experienced.
And how could you help someone rely more on their intuition and less on their spreadsheets?
Make them aware of when their intuition has worked, when and help them start to feel more confident about it. But again, on the same lines of what I've been talking about, if we are inexperienced at something and try to rely on our intuition, it's probably not necessarily a good idea. If you are experienced, then you can use your intuition a lot more successfully, and I believe that is also unconscious memories.
We need to talk about you and time. This is ridiculous how fast the time's going here. So, how would you describe your purpose and values?
My purpose is now driven by my grandbabies. I've got little grandbabies, and they drive me.
Yeah,
they drive me because it was about 18 months ago. I was looking at them playing. They're all small, and I just all of a sudden thought, what's the world going to be like when you're my age? And you know what, Paul? I was really upset. I was upset for about 2 weeks. I thought, oh, what can I do? What can I do? So I sat with it. And I thought, right, okay, I've got to do something because I'm a very practical woman, and I have to be useful, literally. If I'm not useful, I'm in a corner rocking, sucking my thumb. Okay, so I have to be useful. And I thought, well, what can I do to help these babies? I recycle everything, and I buy from sustainable sources, and I people who are paid properly, and I do all of that, but it's not enough. So I thought, right, what can I do? What does the world need? And I came up with, well, what the world needs are genius ideas. I thought, okay, well, I'm not a genius, so what can I do? And I thought, well, what I know how to do is communicate.
Yeah.
So I started promoting myself as helping geniuses communicate their ideas. For instance, going from onboarding people who we work with in the team, helping them sell it to their boss, helping that boss actually work with that, and helping them create a presentation so that they can get funding or investment. So the whole thing right through. But then a lot of people don't recognise their geniuses. They don't know they have genius ideas. So what can I do about that? So, okay, actually, if you look back in history, the most ordinary person has amazing ideas and amazing ways of handling themselves without even realise they're being heroes, without realising they're being geniuses. History is littered with them. So it's when needs must, really. So I now also help people extract genius ideas from everybody who thinks that they're just normal, mainstream, not geniuses in any shape or form. But I've taken that now a step further, even more. And I'm now working with professionals as well as leaders in most industries, especially engineers and lawyers, because they're quite analytical in their thinking. And I help them communicate these ideas and plug into the unconscious processing, that unseen, that unheard, that unsaid, that stuff that I talked about at the beginning.
And there's quite a few people listen to this who are running businesses, CEOs, MDs, etc. How do you create a culture in a business that allows those geniuses to shine?
They've got there's something brandished around a lot, and a lot of people don't understand it. But psychological safety is
it's overused, isn't it?
It is overused. It is.
Let's
terribly.
dig into it a bit. What kind of things do you need to do to create that?
You need to make. If I said to you right now, what is the one emotion that everybody wants to feel, whether they are 2 years old or 102 years old? What do you think that is?
Love.
And anything else?
Oof. A sense of being useful,
Yeah,
purpose.
helpful.
Yeah.
Significant.
Yeah.
Right? If you've got a 2-year-old, you're sitting at your laptop at home, man, woman, dad, mum, carer, whoever you are, and you've got this 2-year-old going, mummy, mummy, daddy, daddy, mummy, mummy, daddy, daddy, and they've got your trouser leg and they're going, mummy, mummy, daddy. They go, let me just press send. This is really an important email. Will you please let me just press send? Mummy, mummy, daddy, daddy. They're not going to give up, right? If you bend down and actually say, what is it? They will tell you, and then they go off and play. You've made them feel significant. What is it the very elderly want to say, often say in our society and in many societies? They say, I feel invisible.
Lonely, yeah.
Right? How often do you hear that?
A lot.
Far too often.
More so than ever before.
I feel invisible. If you help people feel significant, they will do so much. And they will feel so much better in themselves, and they will be kinder to one another. They will do all the chemicals in the brain will be behaving in a much more balanced way. So if you are a business leader and you're trying to change the culture of your business, the first step is to make everybody feel significant. Everybody is valuable and valid and contributing equally.
So you talked about AI. As AI becomes more and more prevalent in our companies, the fear is certainly from people they will be less significant. So how do we balance the developments in AI and keeping people feeling significant when some of them think, well, this AI is going to take my job away?
It's interesting that we believe, or from what you have just said, that what the people believe their significance is their job. Or perhaps their significance isn't that particular job. Perhaps it's going to be an altered job or a changed job because of AI, because of the tools we're using. The job will morph. It will evolve, and we need to evolve with it. If we don't, you're a dinosaur. You've just got to. This is the thing. People think the brain doesn't like change, right? It doesn't like change. The brain is change.
It's changing constantly, isn't it?
Constantly. Neuroplasticity, everything. Homeostasis, blood pressure. Are you hungry? You're not hungry. You're thirsty? You're not thirsty. We're in a state of constant change. What the brain doesn't like is uncertainty. It's gaps in information. And when we have gaps in information, that's when we can feel very anxious, and we start to listen to John down the pub and somebody else and all this misinformation to fill those gaps that fits in with our schemas, with our perceptions, with our scripts that we have in our heads, our experience. So what we really need to do is start to relax into this uncertainty. Tell your people the whole story. Don't just give them a snippet and say, will you do so-and-so? And an example of that, I'll back that up with. I was working with a law firm in the Square Mile in the city, very, very senior, big law firm. And one of the partners was on the session, and she gave the example of, she asked one of the solicitors to do some photocopying for her. And the solicitor pushed back, said, no, ask a paralegal. I'm qualified. I'm not going to do your photocopying. So she said, I have got to finish this document by 6:00 tonight. The client needs it. He wants a hard copy. I've got this, and this to do. Will you help me, please? I went, oh, okay. You see, two things. A, you've given them the full story, the full picture. And B, you've shown a bit of vulnerability to help them feel significant and to feel valuable and valid by helping you. It's not hard. It just needs a bit of thought and a bit of time.
Yeah. Just briefly before we finish, I want to talk about we've used the S word, spirituality a bit. How would you define spirituality as a neuroscientist? What is it?
Well, defining consciousness is hard enough. Defining spirituality, I think different spiritual people will have different explanations of how they're feeling. I think it's going to be very much an individual idea. But for me, if you're asking me personally, I think it's being curious about what we don't know. I think it's being open to things that we can't explain. And I think it's being kind and generous of spirit.
And do you have any spiritual practices you do?
I do meditate. I do practice gratitude every night. I can honestly say I'm more, I suppose, when I'm out in nature, I love walking in the hills. So, in fact, my loveliest things to do is walking in the hills, really big, long walk, and then going for a pub lunch, something so simple.
That sounds spiritual to me, the pub lunch bit, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, for me, it's the simple things. It's simplifying.
I like that. We overcomplicate things too much, don't we?
We do.
So someone who, what have you gained from meditating? How do you do it? Because some people say, they're hearing more and more about meditation these days. A lot of people, more people are talking about it, but I don't know how to start. Well, how would you advise them?
I would simply say on the breath. Just count your breath, and if the thoughts come in, let them come in. You're not going to switch the brain off. It take a long time to actually get to a space of nothing. But just count the breath. 5 in, 5 out, 6 in, 6 out, whatever you want. Uneven numbers, depending on what you feel energized or quieter. But that's just it. Give yourself 10 minutes of counting the breath. If you're at work, go to the loo, shut that door, and spend 5 minutes in there on the breath. Just count it. Nobody know you're missing. It's
and what are the benefits of doing it for you and for maybe other people that you've?
Clearer thinking, most certainly clearer thinking, and you calm yourself down in terms of not being in emotional state. And that's very important. So you're not shooting from the hip with emotional response. You're taking that breath, you're taking that time. That can actually stop conflict and help you see the other person's point of view, reminding yourself that person has got perceptions that are unique to them and they are correct. Reminding yourself of that. And it will lower your blood pressure. There is an awful lot you're going to do physiologically as well as psychologically.
And do you think people? I mean, you've been in this area for a long time. Do you think people are getting less calm than they were, say, 10 or 20 years ago?
I think people are aware of what we should, in inverted commas, be doing. But I think the level of anxiety is higher.
Yeah, I think that.
I can see it a lot. I think we all can. People's levels of anxiety, and the stats are not good when it comes to attempted suicides. So that's a very serious thing.
What is it that's good? I mean, COVID is probably one of the factors. What other factors have caused that increase in anxiety, do you think?
I think people are in overwhelm. There is an awful lot of overwhelm going on. All of the things there is a cacophony of stimuli out there that's bombarding us at any one time. And now we can't switch it off. It's on all of the time. I used to hate Sundays when I was growing up because they were so boring. Everything was shut. I long for that now. I just long for the Sundays where everything closed. But nothing closes, nothing turns off. It's on. So we have to turn it off. We have to be proactive about it, not scrolling through ridiculous hours of the night and sleep.
Are you on social media?
Yes.
Do you find you have to limit yourself?
Yes.
Yes. And how do you do that?
Well, first of all, it's banal, isn't it? It's sometimes you're scrolling, you think, what am I doing? You catch yourself out doing it. So I use LinkedIn, I use Facebook, I'm Instagram now and again. So I'm not the TikTok generation. Don't do that much of that. And once you start it, of course, you start looking at it, you're drawn in because it's actually quite addictive. But he's got to turn it off.
And your grandbabies, as they grow up, hopefully they'll look to you for advice on this. How would you advise young people growing up in this world to?
I'd probably want their advice. Because they're the ones who are going to be relevant, not me. So I'd probably want their advice. If I would like to be the sort of grandparent who is a safe place to feel. That's what I think I'd like. Just, my house, I gear my house up to be a place of fun and a place of safety, healing. So that's how I would like to be seen as a human being.
Okay, well, I'd love to carry on talking to you. We could seriously go on for another 2 hours, but we're not going to. Just to get to the questions that I ask all my guests. First one is a piece of advice you wish you had when you started out that you didn't.
I wish I'd known about playing to your strengths. If you have got things that you hate or things that you're not very good at, get other people to do it. If you can't afford it, then perhaps you could swap services, but get other people to do the stuff that they're expert at and you're not. And
a piece of well-meaning advice that actually wasn't very good advice that you've chosen to ignore.
Actually, it's rather a long list.
Give me the top one then.
No, the list. I thought about this and I thought, do you know what? It's everything that starts with "you should."
Yeah. Yes, should is a terrible word.
You should be doing this. Oh, go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you listened to half the advice, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing.
No.
You wouldn't be.
Usually the should is someone else's dream, not yours, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got well-meaning friends who tell me Lynda, at our age, what we should be doing is this, and I'm going, I get angry. Because they try to shrink me. Don't shrink me, okay? Don't even go there. I'm going to be working till I'm 150. I love what I do. I will refuse to shrink. And the people do. They try to keep you safe. Even those that care about you most will try to keep you safe, especially those that care about you.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So they're trying to keep you safe, bless their hearts. But you've got to fall over. And if, you break a few bones, pick yourself up, keep going. Just do it your way.
Brilliant. And from the Fourth Bottom Line book, the leadership characteristic of the 50 in there that most resonates with you at the moment?
Well, the one that jumped out at me was self-discipline.
Okay.
Because I am a shiny new ball sort of person. I do, it's like, oh my God, that's really interesting. And off I go. Oh, another dark alley, another rabbit hole. But I'm so interested in so much. There are so many fantastic things out there that sometimes what I should be doing, I don't do. It stays on my to-do list for 5 days because I've just gone, oh, that's really interesting. I'm off on that one and off I do that. So, yeah, that's self-discipline.
That's the curiosity that's...
Yes.
They act in tension with each other, don't they?
Yeah.
Good. I'd love to carry on, but we have to finish. So, Lynda, thanks so much for coming on the Fourth Bottom Line. You've been a brilliant guest. The time has gone more quickly on this than any other episode I've ever done. So, yeah, and it's Friday afternoon when we're recording this. So,
I know. And I've had great fun. Thank you very much, Paul.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Fourth Bottom Line. Please hit subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode, and do leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to learn more about my work, follow me on LinkedIn, visit my website, paulhargreaves.co.uk, or look out for my 2 books, Forces for Good and The Fourth Bottom Line. Thanks so much for listening.